Hello everyone, welcome to Jump Up Supercast, the only podcast on the internet that now has a theme song. I'm Will, and joining me this week, Brandon.
Hey, thank you, Hyper Potions. You guys rock. Keep doing some good work and being awesome.
Noah.
Do 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 do. That's our theme song.
Ills.
Why does Brandon always go first? He's terrible.
Saf.
Man, if we don't edit in a intro track from Hyper Potions, then this episode is gonna be super weird.
And Muzamil.
Was I supposed to be hearing music? I don't hear anything. I'm a little
Here's
lost
the
here.
fun part. By me saying that in the intro, we have to find it. It could just be Noah going doot-to-doot-doot, though. That's always an option.
That's why I did it as a backup.
I would prefer that, actually.
Not only will that be the intro, but then we'll credit Hyper Potions for that.
They'll turn it into their own song. Also, fuck you, Wills.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
That's
true.
Right?
Uh,
Nobody stood up for me
Wow,
after.
wow, the
after
first-
that.
Why would they? They knew I was right.
Brandon, I appreciate
We made it
I
a
like
minute
your
and 30
intros.
seconds in before people were cursing. We're fine. It's okay. How are we doing this week, boys?
Doing fine.
I'm
I wish
crying.
we were rated explicit.
inside.
I
I was
eyes
doing
hurt.
good until I got personally attacked.
I'm just upset that this podcast is not properly labeled. We should be explicit. We're very explicit people. And there's children listening.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
And you know what I say, children? Fuck you. I hate you.
Yeah.
Now, hold on.
I don't think I've
I don't-
ever agreed with Muzzy more in my whole life.
Well, I don't.
This is going to
Okay.
a down reading right now.
We are not like Godzilla.
Completely
We are
out of
not
your
friend of the
control
children. Saf, I want to specifically call you out here.
Oh shit.
Do you feel important, Saf?
Yes.
Do you
I
feel
hope so.
special?
Yes.
Because this week.
I mean, he's the one editing the podcast, so you
He's the
better.
one-
Otherwise,
that too. But I hope you feel special because this week, Nintendo of Europe. This is your domain, Saf.
My home.
Your home.
Before I divorce
well,
it.
Kind of.
I thought
Kind
Scotland isn't part of Europe anymore.
It's true,
We got
I
a few
mean-
more days. We got a few more days.
A few more days. Well, in the meanwhile, while you are still part of Europe, we had an Indies highlight from Nintendo this week.
Oh, good old Nintendo.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that as part of the news because, boy oh boy, first and foremost, it's funny to me because people will say, "Is this different than an Indies thing?" It is because it's based on European developers. That's why they do this, right?
Mhm.
Because they have.
Oh.
And so that's why the Nintendo UK does the whole initiative. But so I mean, if you're hearing these games, they are coming from people in Europe, not named Saf. But first and foremost, we'll start with what they ended with. The pacing was a little different on this one because they took more time for each game, which is something I actually kind of appreciated. But they ended with the new game from Image and Form. And if you don't know them, you know probably the series SteamWorld.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
Love SteamWorld.
SteamWorld is going to be the fourth title in the overall series. There's SteamWorld Dig 1, then in the meanwhile there was SteamWorld Heist, then SteamWorld Dig 2, and now SteamWorld Quest.
Well, actually, before that, they did SteamWorld Tower Defense, but we don't talk about that.
You are right. We don't talk about that one.
That one's
it got
fun
good.
too, but like,
Yeah.
but like Dig is where like they kind of took off, right? That's the
Sure.
Yeah.
And sort of there's now a little bit of a pattern. We'll see if they stick to it now. They have the SteamWorld Dig. They do this weird side thing in the SteamWorld universe, then back to Dig, then doing another weird side thing. SteamWorld Heist was a 2D strategy
RPG.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one is a card-based RPG.
Mhm.
Yes.
Heavily more sort of both of the all of the games prior were sort of Dig is all Wild West themed. Heist was sort of like
Space.
it was spacey. This one is pure. It's fantasy. Quest is in the name.
Well, did you see the
and-
two inspirations they listed for this card-based game?
Bait and Kaidos and Mega Man Battle Network were the two
Yeah.
inspirations they listed. So this is cool. One, I like just the aesthetic of it. I think that they've dialed in more and more. The whole SteamWorld aesthetic is everybody is robots. Everything is, sort of steampunky as the name would imply, but it's the main character is a knight, for example, and it's very easy to take a suit of armor and make that into like a robot person than, like a cowboy.
Yeah.
But-
it's easily the prettiest, just like pure, like from a visual standpoint, like it is the prettiest SteamWorld game yet. And Dig 2 was already a looker, you know? So like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I think that each game they've made has gotten better and better, which is, I think, why they've got a good reputation and why you would end your conference on them, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I find it so endearing that they keep like building up this SteamWorld universe with like new titles every time. It's so great that they stick with that aesthetic and they just keep fleshing it out more and more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
with wild things, like not being stuck with like what Dig set out, right? Like these are wildly different genres. They did Metroidvanias, 2 Metroidvanias, but then they did a tactical side-scrolling RPG. I mean, strategy game, and now they're doing an RPG, a fantasy RPG, and it's just at first. Like, if Heist didn't exist, I would be hesitant, right? But because Heist came out, and it was in a completely different genre, and it was completely different, but still turned out so freaking good, like, these guys have my trust to do anything. You know, like, really. Like,
For sure.
Yeah, like, I completely trust them with anything that they want to tackle, because they've done really good so far.
Yeah, I have complete faith in them at this point.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And this is coming in 2019. All the games they announced are coming in 2019. This one did not get a month or a time frame because we imagine it'll probably be later in the year. But it's a timed Switch exclusive, so it'll come to other consoles eventually. But for the first little period of time, gonna get that on Switch and probably on PC. Which is cool. Also, just really fast, if you look at the gameplay, it's neat. It's sort of like Bait and Kaidos, like Mega Man Battle Network. They give you a lot of cards. You sort of use the cards they give you to build archetype decks, you know? So, like, you're not going to use every single card you get. You're going to use cards that work together. And that's where the strategy side of the RPG comes into play.
Yeah.
Speaking of strategy, the game they opened with I really loved this trailer. Really good, like, cinematic animation for Wargroove.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's out soon, February 1st. So
Hell yes.
I'm doomed. I'm doomed. In the next 2 weeks, I have Wargroove, Resident Evil, and Kingdom Hearts. I'm in a lot of
There's
trouble
a lot.
because they've given a time frame, and there's supposed to be about 50 hours of single player content in Wargroove.
Oh shit!
Dang.
Yeah.
That's a
Oh my
lot
God.
of stuff.
So it's like, well, it's combined with like the campaign, the side stuff they have, like specific.
They have
strategy
challenge
maps,
modes,
they have
puzzle
challenge-
modes, stuff like
There's
that.
a whole lot of stuff in here for sure, and there's a whole campaign editor. Like, the way they describe the campaign editor is so interesting because apparently it's the same tools they use to make the game, and you can literally make your own world map, like your own dialogue, like you can make your own game basically within.
You
this
can make your own
Wargroove engine.
campaigns.
Yeah.
That's
and
the
it's-
pitch.
And it's very
Um,
cool. Just and you can share that with any console except for PS4.
Yeah. And sort of like Advance Wars, like there's different factions, right? That all have different types of units to them, and each of those different factions have different characters with different campaigns. So it also works as sort of, while being a pure, just story based thing that you can go through, it also can be a little tutorial of like all the variety you can put when you're making the campaigns down the line.
Yeah, and they all seem to have like different like special abilities. Like the necromancer guy can raise the
can
dead or
summon
something.
skeletons. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And also, this game is it's coming out on Xbox, Switch, and PC. All, like I said, on February 1st. All crossplay. So, Brandon, you can get those achievements if you so desire, and we can still play together.
It's a dream come
Wow.
true.
Yeah. The PS4
say.
version is coming later because I think crossplay isn't going to be available. So, we talked about how Fortnite is allowing crossplay, but reminder that for a ton of other games, PS4 is going to be its own little isolated system for a while.
I don't get it.
Yeah, it's not fun. Like we had an argument the other day with me and a couple of friends of just like where we're gonna get Anthem on, and it's like, hey, we can just do crossplay. This wouldn't be a problem, right?
Yeah, that would be nice. But Wargroove is one of the first game. It was in the very first Indie showcase we got, so it's cool to finally see this come out and to look as good as it's looking. I'm excited for it. February 1st, cannot wait.
Yep. Next up, we have, this is the one that I had never heard of, but has been on PC for a while. That's what I think is cool about these, is that sometimes you'll hear about games that may have already come out, but you just missed. Double Kick Heroes, which there's a lot of descriptors on this thing. It's a post-apocalyptic heavy metal rhythm shooter video game The developer's name is Headbang Club, so you know they're dedicated to the heavy metal aesthetic. This is neat because it's I guess it's like we said, all those things, right? So you have the little bar at the bottom scrolling along. It's a rhythm game, named after double kick, like a double kick pedals that's oftentimes used in drumming and metal music. And there's 30 original songs and tracks, and then there's also some licensed music from. I mean, we're not getting like Metallica, obviously. This is an indie game; they can't afford that. But they listed some bands that they did get that, you know, if you follow metal, are like relatively decently well known. So that was cool. But this is coming in summer 2019, also first to Switch. So
yeah, this game is already out, you said?
no, this one is coming in summer 2019. It's out on PC, so you can pick it up.
That's
there.
what I meant. Yeah.
And impressions are generally positive on PC from what I read, right? Like, clearly, if you're not into metal, this probably won't be into you. But as a person that was, especially in his teenage years, I was like, hey, this is a game, you know, I wanted to love Brutal Legend so much. And, you know, this game is sort of has a similar vibe to it of just, you know, loving heavy metal and being silly about it. So I hope it's good.
And I was super impressed that they have like 30 original tracks. I was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. And it looks really, really good. I'm not good at rhythm games, but I would give it a shot.
Yeah. The next one is interesting because this one is out now. When ski lifts go wrong. And this seemed like weird at first, but then I thought about it. It's a constructor game. It's the first game by the studio that made it, Huge Calf Studios. But I went and I looked on Steam the other day, and Bridge Constructor is like always consistently in the top 10 sellers on on Steam, excuse me. And so I think that there's like a market where like these types of games actually do well. And I think that this is sort of a Nintendo making a grab for that to help some developer out, but also like have a game of this type on Switch.
I think this kind of falls in line with a lot of things that Nintendo's been doing, right? Where the kinds of third-party and specifically indie content that they go after, in a lot of ways, seems to be like stuff that's super popular on PC but hasn't really made its way to consoles yet. Like we saw this with Into the Breach, and I think that's a fascinating approach. I think that, like, you know, I think naturally having that kind of experience on the go is very appealing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can't really play it. And you wouldn't really want to play this game like really sitting down on a TV and doing it. So it's a pretty good fit for Switch, and
the touchscreen especially lends it well.
Yeah, the touchscreen especially helps with that, and so it's nice to see them really go hard after the kinds of things that do well on PC that not necessarily you would think would be on a console. It's very neat.
Yeah. Next up, there's Forager from Hop Frog, which is another relatively new developer. This is one that's interesting because it's one that is not coming to any other consoles as of announced right now because it's originally was designed entirely to be played with the mouse. So there is stick controls, but the touchscreen is really, I think, sort of what they're bringing to the forefront on this one. It's sort of, it's a forager, as you could imagine from the name. It's about gathering materials. So it's, there's a little bit of Stardew stuff where you can plant and grow and all that Harvest Moon stuff to gather resources to expand the places you can go to. But there's also dungeons and bosses and enemies and a bunch of other stuff that is sort of the Zelda side of things that they said are their two big inspirations. It's coming in an early 2019 release, so that'll be relatively soon. But it's a cool game also just because it's one that I had never heard of. That's, a pretty consistent thing. But, outside of Wargroove and SteamWorld, obviously wasn't announced, but I was aware of SteamWorld as a series. These are all new things for me. Yeah. Which is why I like these little things. Next up,
with Forager, I saw, sorry, real quick on Forager, I looked at the blog post that they did, and they were like, one of their biggest things is like, hey, we want to make sure it's 60 frames per second, even on Switch, and apparently they've made real good progress on that. Where even late game stuff, where things get crazy, still hitting that. So it's nice to see, because I think a lot of times we see with Switch they run not so great, but
yeah,
it's cool to see that this one really making sure, hey, this experience is still super great on the Switch. So.
Next up, this is a weird one. Goat Simulator Goaty Edition. Because that which is goat may never die.
Jesus.
Still alive. This is to give you perspective on the state of all of this whole deal. Is very funny to me that like there's Goat Z as an expansion in this game, which was a parody of DayZ, but DayZ's now dead. But this is still coming out and is like parodying this thing that's no longer relevant, you know?
Good one.
But it's out now. So, you know, there are always 13-year-olds that are turning 13 and seeing Goat Simulator and saying, this is hilarious, and still buying it. So that's why they keep re-releasing it.
That game I thought was already on the Switch for some reason, just because I already believed it was like ported to every console ever made.
Yeah, it just feels like it was inevitable, right? Like you could see this one coming, and
they really ran with it. They ran with the ball when they're like, we hit a meme, let's just keep running with it, dude.
Hey, they keep making money, so.
You respect the hustle. Next up is Inmost, which is a team of 2 guys making this one, which is cool. It's, if you remember, it's the one that's all very blue and just a lot of darker shades. It's supposed to be an atmospheric puzzle platformer, but they said it has a heavy story focus. That's sort of a thing that they want to convey. This is another one.
Would you say like in the vein of like Limbo or, you know?
Yeah,
that
definitely. 100%.
Sure, yeah.
That's exactly what I thought of every moment I was looking at this game.
This is cool. This is, I think, the 3rd game I mentioned so far, by the way, that is being published by Chucklefish. So they've really
Chucklefish loves the Switch.
They love the Switch. Stardew is sold over 1 million on Switch, so they're like
laughing all the way to the bank.
Super well, and you know they were one of the first guys to really go all in with the platform in the first place. So like it's nice to see it's paying out in dividends for them, you know, and that they just keep going with it. It's great.
Next up, Unruly Heroes. This is a game that is crazy because I think it was just announced and released on the same day. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't hear about this before.
I couldn't find anything about it before. But it's by former Rayman Legends developers, and if you look at it, you'll see it. The art style is there. It's Journey to the West inspired. It's a platformer. So you got the Monkey King, you got the Pig Man, all that other stuff in there.
It also reminded me a bit of Trine, like the Trine series.
I can see that. Yeah.
Because there's the local co-op, but if you're playing single player, you swap characters because each character has unique stuff that they can do that others can't. Like the Monkey King can lay down his bar to like cover gaps that you can walk across. The Pig Man can like float, I think, like a pea balloon in Mario. So that's
it looks so pretty that I honestly thought that they licensed out the UBR engine or something, but it turns out they did it all in Unity, which is like even more impressive.
Yeah.
That's cool, but I really wish there was online multiplayer, man. I wanted to play.
That'd be nice.
There's 4-player online like competitive, which is weird, I think, but no online co-op.
But in general, like I think the trailer was going for a very like Rayman look. Like, hey, like this looks like Rayman, you know? Like even a lot of the action shots reminded me of like gameplay segments in Rayman. So I thought that was cool.
And then the last game, Crosscode. This one, I didn't get the joke at the end of the trailer. There's a weird thing where like you see a bunch of these little hedgehogs and they fly away. And I was like, why? But then it turns out the developer literally a month ago was on Twitter saying Crosscode will be on Switch when hedgehogs fly when someone asked if it was coming to Switch. So that they were being cheeky with that trailer. But so
that happening a month before, I guess that was the plan.
It was part
along,
of the plan.
Right? Yeah, it was like they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, but this is a 16-bit inspired like old art, Secret of Mana style RPGs from the SNES era. Sci-fi,
like
it's an action game.
Terranigma, that kind of thing.
This is a game that I looked. It's been out on PC for a while. The word of mouth is super good. People that have played it have actually been super positive on it. But they say it's like over 40 hours, which is crazy. Pretty long.
I mean, a little bit about what I heard, because I saw that trailer yesterday, and I was blown away. I was like, man, this looks super great. I really just immediately clicked with me. And then I go and look at user impressions and stuff. Apparently, like, the world is completely handcrafted, and just the level design is just top notch. The combos you could do with the combat system really is just incredible. Like it gets crazy. it just looks really fantastic. And oh man, I cannot wait to play it on Switch. Like, it easily shot up to being like one of the games I'm most looking forward to this year. And I don't know how that happened, but you know, and I didn't even hear about this. Like, I did not know this game existed until yesterday.
Yeah, I haven't heard like almost anything about it, but like I always see it on the front page of Steam, and I was like, why is Steam always here? But yeah, looking at the trailer yesterday, I got super excited. Was it yesterday? Yeah. I got super excited, and like it just seemed like it can get really intense really quickly. So I was,
and like the
really
story is apparently pretty good, and like just all around, apparently, just in all aspects, this game is shining. Apparently, so we've been missing out on something.
Yeah. Apparently.
So we'll see. Yeah. But I think that this is neat because it's and it's sort of a larger trend that's true of Nindy's showcases, is that like we've talked before about storefronts having curation, right? We've talked, Brandon has mentioned before how it's hard to, the Switch can sometimes feel like it's just being covered with garbage, right? Of just all these weird $1 games. But I think that these actually presentations do an interesting way of curating it, which is sort of doing the curation removed from the storefront. Like, hey, you know, all the games will be given equal treatment. Like, that's the thing I actually like about Nintendo storefront, is that like Smash Brothers is positioned right next to, you know, Stardew Valley on the bestsellers list. They're not like, it's not, PlayStation puts all of their first party as a whole separate page that only they get on the store, right? But where Nintendo does sort of give emphasis is in these presentations. It's like, hey, these are the games that we sort of feel confident in, that we think will be good. You know, keep an eye on these moving forward.
And it works, right? Because like Wargroove is a great example of this. That has been stuck in people's brains for 2 years now, because we saw it in that first Indies showcase, you know? And so I think like, I think that actually the storefront being the way it is works out just fine, because through the news app and through these, and especially through these showcases, it's like Nintendo's kind of like pointing at, hey, like, well, you know, these are the games we think are worth checking out. Where it doesn't feel too unfair to the people who don't get that kind of showcase, you know, that kind of highlight, because on the storefront themselves presenting completely equally, but we still get to see the gems, you know, and something like Wargroove does not get left behind in the shuffle, you know, because like I said, like that's just all we think about. It's like, where's Wargroove? And I think that's gonna happen with a lot of these games.
I still wish there was a better way to navigate the store, though. I still feel like
my god,
sure, the navigation
so
certainly,
much stuff.
Yeah, I can definitely agree there. I just think that the way it's presented, and because the news app exists, which kind of alerts you to a lot of pretty good content, I think that works pretty well. Just the act of navigating should definitely get better. But overall, though, like when it comes to these showcases, like it's nice to see these indie games get this kind of treatment, you know, because it's a first party presentation. It naturally just gets way more eyes than any other presentation would, you know. Because coming from Nintendo means more than just coming from Chucklefish, you know.
And these,
it is great.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, that was pretty much it. It's just like it's great to see these guys get these highlights. Yeah,
I was expecting Brad to say something.
I was just saying it was great. It's great. It's great that these, you know, that Nintendo's doing the job of, you know, putting these people over.
What a great time to be European for the next few days.
Yeah, enjoy it while you got it, buddy. Yeah, so that's cool. I mean, it's also cool, you know, because I mean, like you sort of alluded to, I was looking at the trailers for the games prior, and like, you know, none of the views. This thing already has 200,000 views. That's more than any of these individual games trailers ever had a chance of getting, you know. So that's cool. But the one place where I did see some an interesting thing of note is that Crosscode was a Kickstarter game. And would you guess in what year was Crosscode kickstarted?
2014.
2015.
2015. But you specifically did not say recently. And there's a good reason why. Because Kickstarter published their stuff and said, hey, dudes, year of review, we'll show all the numbers of where money went with all this stuff. And this is the first year where video games spending in Kickstarter has gone down year over year. It was previously 17.25 million last year. It's now 15.8 million. Meanwhile, in comparison, tabletop games have $165 million spent on them in the year of our Lord 2018. a crazy amount. But I think we all remember the time frame of like Mighty Number 9 and Yooka-Laylee and Bloodstained. There was just this 2-year period where people were saying, is Kickstarter the future of video game development, right? Is this where the games that we want to get made will happen? And we now look and say that a lot of these, it's dropped off in a big way, right? In 2015, at the peak of it, it was getting 55 million a year, right? And now it's almost a fourth of that.
Yeah, that's. I mean,
so why do you think this has happened?
Sorry, I was gonna say, like, you even have Yacht Club now saying, like, our next game probably won't be Kickstarter, and they are by far, I would say, the most successful product to come out of this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Yet we still have Bloodstained coming.
I mean, sure, but like, I still think like Shovel Knight is like the premier like Kickstarter game, the one that definitely up until this point at least turned out the best and just like has been well received, did well, like just all around like Shovel Knight is that game.
I would say that's the most famous example, probably. Yeah.
And for even them to be like, I don't know if we're gonna do Kickstarter next time, is fascinating to me because.
Well, I mean, now they
don't really need to now. They established themselves as a game company.
Now they have the clout.
Yeah, but I think also it's this thing of like, I think Kickstarter, we've learned over the last few years, actually kind of has a lot of downsides, right? Like, I think that, these stretch goals often blow up the content of the game in a way that the devs didn't initially expect, because it's hard to really picture how much does something cost to make. Even for people who have been in the industry for years and years, they still can't nail that down, because that's just the way game development is. And then just the pressure put on by, being so public facing. And we're used to games getting announced and not coming out not too long after, whereas the Kickstarter, because it's from the very beginning of development, then we're just hearing about this game for years and years and years, and people are like, where is it? Not realizing how long game development takes, and it's just like, it seems to be a huge headache overall,
Well, yeah,
Definitely.
I agree with all that, but also we have to acknowledge that there's more crowdfunding sites that are popular now, right? Like Indiegogo and Patreon and stuff like that.
Patreon's an interesting thing because it's not project funding, so it's sort of a different thing. Like it's weird because we now have like animation studios on Patreon, right? Getting like monthly stuff from people. But I mean, what was the Fig? The thing that they tried to do Psychonauts 2 on, and they succeeded, and they tried to do Swery's new game, The Good Life, on. Like that didn't work as well because I think Kickstarter is probably the most public one. But I think that things can get out of. I think it's just game development almost never takes less time than you think and almost always takes more time than you would think, right? And so there sort of is this balance, I think, that people have to try to, like, I respect the Bloodstained team for taking their time in some ways, right? Like, they promised, I think, early 2018, and obviously we're in early 2019, but like
I think the initial release date was supposed to be like 2017, if I recall correctly. I
think so, yeah.
But like, I think that there's an issue with that where like, if they don't want it's the Miyamoto quote, putting out a bad game is bad forever. Delaying a game can be eventually good. Like, but it's hard when the public is the people that are funding you. So it's just angry emails being, where's the game that I paid for? Right.
Yeah, that's the risk.
And so, and like you said, like I think if you told Yacht Club in 2013 that they would still be working on Shovel Knight expansions in 2019, they might be like, these stretch goals got out of hand, because they did. But I think that tabletop stuff just lends it better. I think that you can look and say paper will cost this much, design will cost this much, shipping will cost this much. I can get it done in a year, right? Like rather than video games where things change under your feet already, right? Like Bloodstained, to bring it back, like cancel the Wii U version, cancel the Vita version, because when those were the current systems, and now they're dead. And so that just happens. But yeah, so I mean, I just wanted to touch on that a moment because I thought about like, what's the last Kickstarter story I read, and I realized it was a while ago. But where there was some pretty good sales?
Where?
In the month of December for the Nintendo Switch.
No way.
So we got the NPDs for December, so therefore we have the numbers for the entire year. I'm just going to throw out some figures because Nintendo did pretty good. Nintendo did PR, Sony and Microsoft didn't do PR. If they did, we would be talking about them too, but they didn't. So, Smash Bros. Ultimate is, since the MPD group has started tracking games in the year 1995, had the best single launch month for any exclusive ever on any console.
Yay.
Boom.
And without even accounting for digital, which is the most insane part of it all. Like,
Wait,
Smash
what?
Bros. Has a large... Because Nintendo doesn't report digital numbers.
Wow.
Almost everyone else does.
Oh, Jesus.
And
That's probably like another half of what the sales are.
Like a very large chunk of its sales aren't even reported, and it still has that record. You cannot understate how big that launch was. Just insane.
That's crazy.
To note, the previous record was Halo 3 at 3.3 million. Smash did just physical 3.6. So probably over 4 when you factor in digital. Big month. The Switch itself had the best month for any single piece of hardware since 2010, which is the famous best month that we ever had. So that's pretty wild.
Wow.
To compare to previous Smash Brothers games, Smash Ultimate had exceeded Brawl's first month by over 70%. So there's a $10 price increase in there, so that accounts for 16% of the 70%, but that's still like 55%, you know.
Yeah,
it's still just leagues beyond Brawl, which was already which was previously, I think, like the fifth highest selling exclusive launch month, behind just like this wall of Halo games. And
previously 1 through 4 were all Halo. And so I mean, and Brawl is still the best-selling fighting game, but at the rate that Ultimate is going, may not be for long.
It's gonna far exceed Brawl, which is crazy.
Ultimate is a breakthrough in a way that Smash is already huge, and somehow it broke through the ceiling. Ultra Instinct mode has been activated for Smash Brothers. In general, Nintendo was the top publisher, both in money and in units sold for their games, and also the top console manufacturer in money and units sold. So,
I think the software publisher is even bigger now. Because, the Switch was the best-selling hardware of the year, which is in of itself a big deal. But, like, Nintendo, like, is the most relevant it's been in years, you know? For their software to be selling at the pace it is, and it's not just Smash Brothers, right? It is not just off the back of Smash Brothers. It's that Mario Kart and Zelda and Odyssey keep selling, you know? Kirby is breaking out in a way that Kirby never did before, which is weird. Like, it wasn't even that, like, well-received of a game, and Kirby is still doing as well as it is. You know, Mario Party exploded. Pokemon obviously did really well. It's just like, I want to say the NPD said this was the first time since 2009 that Nintendo
2009 was number one. Yeah.
Was the last time that they were the best-selling software publisher. So like, it's crazy, you know, like to be above all these multi-plat publishers and to be above like a year where Sony has God of War and Spider-Man. It's like Nintendo software right now is just selling at a level we've never seen before. Like, truly unprecedented, you know?
Man, it's good to be back on top.
It's great.
One other thing on the note of, so we asked, we never heard numbers for PS Classic. We still don't, but we know numbers about how it kind of did. So the best-selling plug and play, so that means like classic stuff, unit for the year was NES Classic. It was the only single unit. So like they technically separate like the Switch with red and blue and the Switch with the gray Joy-Con and like PS4 and PS4 Pro. But it was number 2 overall, only behind the Switch with the red and blue Joy-Con. So it was the number 2 SKU for the year. Yeah.
Wow.
And then in the launch month for PlayStation Classic, both NES and SNES Classic outsold it. So.
And these are like 1 and 2 year old respective things at this point, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
So for in the same month for the PS Classic to come out and those outselling it 2 years later is just like embarrassing for Sony, first of all. But also just...
Well, I mean, that shows that they didn't really care. Like, they even said, like, the first month, like, there were emulation problems. Like, it was a little glitchy. Like, even, like, people who have modded their SNES Classic to run PlayStation games on it, they actually ran better than the actual PlayStation Classic.
Fucking.
And then just like the game list on the PS Classic sucks. You know, there's just so many big games that they're missing.
Yeah, it's so
it was just
bad.
overall not a good product. You know,
Mm-hmm.
And I think,
and then they received the price cut too.
But to give credit to the NES and Super Nintendo Classic though, I think I didn't realize how all year they've just been quietly selling, you know? Because there was that initial rush back in 2016 where it sold out everywhere. But apparently Nintendo's been stocking them all year. It's clearly been selling well considering it's the second best single piece of hardware this year behind the Neon Switch, you know? Like, it's... I don't know, like, it's crazy that these things are selling so well still, you know, 2 years later. Like, they still haven't met demand, you could say, which is fascinating about these little things.
Nintendo understands that true G's move in silence.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, very good year for Nintendo overall. Don't want to downplay the successes, though. PS4 had a very good year. Xbox One actually had a very good year. Both of them sort of bucked trends of how they were expected to do because of a couple things. I think for PS4 you can attribute God of War and Spider-Man in the mix, but also it's just you can't overstate Fortnite. Sold a ton of consoles this year. It sold a ton of controllers, and sort of
headsets. Headset sales went through the roof this year,
up like 80%, I think. Yeah. And so that won't be there next year. So just a little word to the wise, you're going to see a lot of, probably the next 2 years, a lot of headlines saying console sales are down, they're dying. That's the general trend, right?
That Nintendo's done.
Nintendo's done. Well, no, Switch will be fine. I'm talking about PS4 and Xbox.
Switch will have an even better year in 2019. But like PS4 and Xbox One, like it's reasonable to expect a pretty big decline. You know, they're nearing the end of their life cycles. You know. 2018 should have been poor, but because God of War, Spider-Man, Fortnite especially, the Xbox One X, like those two consoles were able to stave off decline in a really interesting way. But like realistically, 2019 and 2020, like there's not much that's gonna stave off decline. There's not much that's gonna mask like these consoles are.
It's just once you get around 100 million, a lot of people in your system, and it's hard to sell to the 10 million people that don't. You know, like and so, but mainly I'm saying that because there's going to be a lot of headlines that are going to be panicking and dooming and saying consoles are dying. This is the norm. The bell curve. We're just towards the end of it. It's fine. When the next systems come out, they'll do well. Don't worry.
I mean, the PS4 it's a testament to just how well the PS4 has sold.
I mean, because also, just bear in mind, sorry for interrupting, but just bear in mind, it's like PS4 came out in 2013 November.
Yeah.
Like it's been a 6-year lifespan. It's pretty decent.
Yeah.
And it's and that's what I'm saying. Like it's a testament to how well the PS4 has done. You know, where we're 5 years in and it's already nearing 100 million. You know, The PS4 has done incredibly well, so it's fair to expect, all right, we're finally reaching a saturation point, Not many people who would want the system don't already have it, so it's
So that's mostly just a word to the wise to people that are gonna wet the bed. Don't wet the bed, it's fine.
So we told them that Nintendo's going out of business last week.
It's true. People are still rioting in the streets because of the concerns. So then I guess our last little piece of news for the docket, this one we don't have to go too long on, but I thought it was interesting. The president of Epic and the guy who was heading up the Epic's Game Store initiative both gave interviews talking about their views on reviews, because we talked a while back about user reviews and how they sort of can be strange on a platform. And they said that while user reviews are a feature on the Epic Game Store, they're focusing on creating connections with the streamer culture. That's the thing that they're looking at right now. And a part of that is that every Epic Game Store game has a referral code. So if you put that in your description, it'll refer back to your stream and you can get a cut. And that's how Amazon affiliate links and all this other stuff works. And so, but the thing was that they said they're not targeting the ninjas of the world, because Ninja has a guy who does that for him, who, gets these whole marketing deals together. This is for the people that have 100 people watching, every so often, or have 50 or have 100, 200, right? That if you look at actually how sales work, that a lot of indie games do their best off the backbone of smaller streamers, not the giants, right? And so I thought it was just an interesting approach to all of this, to sort of how are they going to offer alternates to Steam. They also noted really quickly that their storefront is younger. That the people that are using it are, on average, from the stuff that they've seen, almost 6 years younger than the average Steam user. So for a lot of them, this may be the first time they've ever used a PC storefront. So they're sort of also factoring that in mind. Go ahead.
I thought that was pretty clever for them to do. I think that's a really good decision overall.
Yeah.
I like that they're, further integrating with Twitch and Twitch streaming culture. That's what everybody should be aiming for, really.
Yeah. I mean, just for example, when I was looking up stuff about the games, Crosscode, the first result for Crosscode is some guy that has like 120,000 subscribers on YouTube, right? But that's it's bigger than any of their trailers before the Switch presentation, was that guy talking about the game and why he likes it so much, right? So like for these indie developers especially, this is sort of what you do instead of paying for marketing and
right,
as like ads on a website, in a way that's cool. And it helps streamers, obviously, because a lot of streamers that work hard only get a certain number of views a week. Having these sponsor deals and having these affiliate links can be another way for them to help get some extra income trying out new games.
It's definitely nice to it seems like better visibility for smaller indies and better visibility for and a better paycheck for smaller streamers, so like in that way it sounds very cool. So like I can't be mad.
Yeah. So
what about the people who get like 2 people watching at a time?
I
don't know what you're referring to.
Hey, but those 2 people, we will convert a sale every single time. All right.
Because it will be us. We can guarantee, because we're the ones watching, that we will convert the sales. So speaking of twitch.tv/Jump Up Supercast, Brandon's playing Xenoblade Chronicles. But yeah, so that is the news this week. We thanks for humoring me on some of that, boys. It was fun. Now, of course, it comes time for the list. This is,
you can follow the list in the paste bin below. There's a list so you can see what games we're talking about.
Hey, watch out for spoilers. But here we are. It's us. We are talking about. Let's see who's up this week. It's Moozamil. Last week,
me.
Last week, I brought New Super Mario Bros. 2, and ended up low for where you think a Mario game would end up. But
that's not what happened last week, but all right.
Frick, what happened last week? Time's an illusion. Ills brought a game. Ills brought Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver at 54.
Yes.
Yeah, got it. Thank you, brother.
That's what happened last week.
That's what happened last week. Yeah, that's true. It's all an illusion. Moose, what's your game?
Okay, so I thought I was looking at the list, and obviously very Nintendo heavy, right? We tend to skew Nintendo, but there's a game that's been on my mind for a little bit now, thinking about the sequel, and I'm gonna be upfront. I have not played much of this game. I played the first hour and dropped out, so I won't be doing much of the talking here. I'll chime in every now and then, but
I think I know what you're talking about.
I would like to talk about The Last of Us.
Oh no! I asked you not to give us a 45 minutes.
Well, I'm out. I don't know anything about it. I didn't play it.
Well, so as far as I know, Brandon, Ills, Will, and Saf, you've all played this, yes? Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I played a lot of it, not all of it, but yeah.
Sure. Okay, so The Last of Us is a very interesting game, because this game, when it came out, was lauded as one of the best of all time. It really put Naughty Dog on the map as like one of the premier video game development studios. It got so many awards in a year that was pretty stacked. It still just swept GOTY awards,
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to hear what you guys think about this game 5 years later, and where you think it belongs on the list. Immediately when it came out, they called it one of the best. So I want to see if that's true.
Oh, don't
the stomach ache that Will's having right now is going on to me too. So
no.
This is like, oh man.
I mean, I guess
this game is so good.
This game's story was incredible. Like, I played a lot of it because I was sharing consoles while I was like playing a friend's console. But the story was so engaging that I ended up just watching a playthrough for the rest of it, just to find out what happened. Because the way they set up the relationship between Ellie and Joel is quite engaging. It's quite interesting, because they start off as like they don't really like each other. They just kind of, it's a job that one person has to do in just transporting her. But then they slowly develop, and then you slowly get to know them better. And the characters that they meet along the way are also interesting. They have their own levels of complexity to them. Like, there was this character, it's near the beginning, where it's like, I think his name was Bill. Yeah. Like, he's gay, and they don't really go out there and tell you that he's gay. They just kind of like throw in subtle hints in the cutscenes, or like as well as in the game as well, which is quite interesting. And it's there's the level of detail, level of complexity that actually is in this game that they kind of like do it subtly that I enjoyed a lot, and it was the most engaging part.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a compliment to the writing overall. I think the writing is probably the strongest aspect of this game.
Definitely,
right?
I would say so.
I agree 100%.
And part
but
of
the gameplay is no slouch either.
No, it's it plays well. Like but when it comes to the writing, like Saf, you sort of touch on this, but like every character sort of, even if you don't necessarily see all of their backstory, all of everything they've ever experienced in their entire life, you sort of imagine in your brain that the writers did, and every action that they take is informed by the experiences that came prior, right? Like on an obvious fundamental level, the game opens with Joel losing his daughter, right? And that's a big part of it, and obviously the idea of Ellie as this kind of replacement, as just this paternal instinct that he has, like, is a big part of it. But every other character and how they view Joel and how they view Ellie is also there's nuance to it in a way that is never like overt, where it's like, I hate you, Joel. It's just like in little things, right? Like you'll see either affection that people have for each other or dislike, and like there's a subtlety to it that you don't get often in video games that I love from The Last of Us.
Yeah, nobody's like a black or white character. Everybody's shades of gray in this game, and like they're all dealing with a very hard situation. It's basically post-apocalyptic environment, with this infection going on. It's kind of like a zombie apocalypse, basically. But yeah, there's heavy vibes of like sort of like a Walking Dead sort of situation. But yeah, the characterization is really strong with every character, like you said, and the situations they get into are just like intense. It's just like crazy.
It's a shockingly good stealth game, right? I think that's sort of caught people off guard, is how much the game is sneaking and hiding.
That's really what caught me off guard when I first played it. And at first I hated it, but the more I played the game, the more I started to enjoy it. Like, I don't know what it was. I guess going into it, I expected it to be more action, like Resident Evil 4.
Sure.
Yeah.
So when I couldn't just, like, bust in rooms and I kept dying at first. Like, I died a lot at the beginning of that game. And at first I was like, I hate this shit. And I didn't even like it. And then the more I played it, the more I was like, oh, okay, this is actually really good.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just something clicked at some point, and I actually started enjoying like being stealthy.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's also neat because, it's obviously a Naughty Dog game, but like Uncharted were the 3 games that came prior before The Last of Us, right? But and in terms of like the engine and stuff, that's all not particularly different. But they're able to find ways to make the game feel completely different when you're actually playing it versus the very like Indiana Jones action-oriented Uncharted games that came prior in that generation. Like Moo said, it sort of really, I think Uncharted 2 put them on the map in like being a huge deal, but Last of Us solidified it and like, oh, like you guys are, you're really putting out some of the best stuff in the game right now. Where would you, Moo's like, when you brought it, so I guess you have to.
Well, okay, because I don't want to rank it too much because like I played this game for an hour, so I can't be like, oh, like
Jesus Christ.
But from what I've seen bits on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah, sorry. Can you tell me what made you not continue playing it? Like, was there a good reason?
Okay, so why I dropped off? Now you guys are gonna roll your eyes.
Okay.
I'm already rolling my eyes.
But there's something that video games do that when it happens, I instantly hate it and want to shut it off. Okay. And that is when I am forced to walk. When I am forced to walk to hear dialogue, I truly hate that. I think that it's a terrible way of storytelling. Because it gives you the illusion of control, but then you can't really do what you want to do, and I find that frustrating, and so that's why I shut it off. Bad reason, I know.
The walk and talk.
Yeah, walk and talk's a bit shitty, but
welcome to fucking Red Dead Redemption.
Oh my god!
But I think that's a really bad method of storytelling.
What a weird complaint.
Look, all right.
I get it. I kind of get it.
I get it, but
it's such a small part of it, though. I mean,
Sure, but
is that really the thing?
It was a large percentage of the early game, though. So like
it was a big enough part to make Muzzy go, nope.
Well,
I mean,
here's the thing. Like,
but that said, based off of what you guys said and what I'm hearing, I feel like at minimum it should be at like number 13. Above Symphonia. I think that like from all the good things that you guys have said about it, like I feel like that's a baseline of where it should be.
Okay.
I would put it higher.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be higher. I'm just saying at a baseline. From what I'm seeing, that's where, at minimum, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I would put it.
But so you guys can drive this further now, though.
I would put it somewhere below. Shit. Maybe. I was about to say Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but then I looked above it. I was like, maybe not. Maybe under Ocarina of Time. Maybe.
Why under though? If it's.
I would put it above.
I would put it above Ocarina, below Thousand Year Door.
I'd put it below Ocarina of Time.
Is there a particular reason?
I mean, the best part about it is
that like that gut punch of an ending just like really stuck with me this whole time.
Really
like,
do love the ending.
Yeah. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I mean, the characterization between these two characters, the fact that you stick with them the whole time, like after sticking with them the whole time, just seeing them grow together is just like really, really strong.
Yeah, and like there was something.
Like, I think about this game a lot too. Like I was thinking, I think maybe last week I was thinking about like putting this game on the list if I was gonna do it, and I was scared about it because I don't know what the fuck I was gonna do.
It's it has a sticking power with you.
Yeah, I don't know. To be honest with you, I could flip either way. The reason why I kind of put it below Ocarina of Time, it was because like this is weird. This is a very weird thing because I think it's overall a great game, but I feel as though like the gameplay wasn't that spectacular. Like it was like using
the gameplay's solid. It's really
solid.
Good. I don't know.
It's solid. It takes about good ideas and stuff, but there's nothing about it that stood out in the same way that the story stood out to me. Like there was stark contrast.
That's the thing.
Was there.
That's why I'd put it below Ocarina of Time for.
I
think.
Ocarina of Time didn't have the greatest of stories to begin with.
No, I think it has a decent one.
Yeah,
I think it's a
decent one. But...
I think the Ocarina of Time story is like it doesn't get actually enough credit in my opinion because like it's not like the biggest part of the game for sure, but it did its job and it tied into the gameplay and just the world in a very interesting way, and I felt something.
That's pretty good.
So I'm split on 2 points on it because I'm one, like just when this game came out, right? It was the end of last gen, and there was something like Il touched on. I don't want to get too into the details of it, right? But so much of that gen had been like Mass Effect. Your choices matter. You could be a million different endings based off what you want. And like at the end of The Last of Us, it's like, no, Joel is a character. He's not you. You don't get to do this. Joel decides because this is the story of Joel and Ellie. And when I walked out,
you're along. Yeah, and you're along for the ride.
I was so grateful to have a game that had a definitive ending. That just like
same.
That was, but also like I was thinking about Ocarina of Time the other day, and just a little. I think that there's a big video that's pulling up at like the subtext of Ocarina of Time, and I haven't watched too much of it to say it much either way. But I think that like a really wonderful thing is just the way that like the game has these weird little subtleties to it. Like I love all the kids stuff. Right, like not just that like, oh, you get the slingshot that's a kid item, right? The boomerang's a kid item, but like when you're with Zelda, you're peeking into like a window, like you're playing hide and seek to get to her, like you're doing childish things. Like there's a beautiful thing to that, and then just talk about gut punches. I think that obviously everyone sort of knows the twist of Ocarina of Time now, but the way that the world shifts in such a strange way, the things that you're doing as Link is so different when you're an adult. In tone, I think is a great trick. It's a great thing that the game just has in its back pocket that it whips out halfway through. So like I'm split because both of them have some really neat stuff to them.
Yeah.
Wait, wasn't there like crafting stuff in Last of Us?
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty cool.
Stuff,
yeah,
it was cool.
And like grenades and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. There's a surprising amount of stuff to The Last of Us in terms of gameplay that I didn't expect when I first started it as well. I don't know.
It's
the thing you were saying. Sorry,
no,
go
you
ahead.
do your thing.
No, the thing you were saying about characters being allowed to, the writing being allowed to shine rather than you choosing your own path or whatever. Yeah, that's the value of really good writing. Like, a lot of people love the open world genre or whatever for choice, but there's something about like being being guided through a story that's like perfectly crafted for you too,
Yeah.
This is one of those examples.
I honestly enjoy that more than like some of the
I definitely do. 100% I do.
Because like I just want to strap fucking in and just go for like a good ass story, just tell me one.
Yeah.
I think that
let me have the good fun gameplay in the middle, but like tell me an amazing story along the way without without me just like, I don't know. I'm not as big on, I have to be in the mood to want to explore in a game. I know some people, that's their thing, right? They want to just always have an open world to explore. I just have to be in the mood for it, for me.
It takes a special game for me, yeah.
Yeah, I just want somebody to be like, here, buddy, just go. This is what's going to happen. I'm going to put you on this roller coaster and you're going to go.
Yeah.
So, Ills, you sound like you're pretty definitively above it.
Yeah.
Brandon, are you still feeling below it?
I'm still feeling below it. Ocarina of Time for me, the gameplay is just so good. I was actually thinking about it randomly the other day, how much I love the gameplay. I don't know why it just hit me. I was like, man, Ocarina of Time.
Ocarina of Time is a game that I don't think, like, it's hard to put into words a lot of times because it's such an off-discussed game, and it so often gets thrown into the mix of, like, best of all time or whatever, and because of that reputation, I think a lot of times we shrug off what is so great about that game, truly, right? Because it's like, it's overrated, whatever, right? But, like, I really do think Ocarina of Time is a special game, and especially, and I don't want to harp on this too much, I don't want this to be a focal point on why, but especially for a game on the N64 to do what Ocarina of Time did, it was like nothing else.
Yeah. Oh, I think that even, I mean, we may talk on this in the most recent Game Club, that like there's a certain ambition that you can still feel from Ocarina of Time even now. Like in some ways it feels quaint, but you can feel like they were swinging for the fences at the same time, and I think that comes across in the gameplay, not just in like knowing the backstory of it.
Yeah.
So Brandon's below. Saf, where are you at?
So with that, damn it, I kind of want to put it below because like Ocarina of Time, like just going back to the gameplay itself, like I can readily admit that there are other games that's gameplay surpasses Ocarina of Time, but the fact that it still holds up as well as it does today, as it did previously when it first released, is still amazing to me. Like, it's been over fucking 15 years.
It's a blast to play.
Yeah, it's been over 15 years, and it still is a solid game to just go through. And you've mentioned, Will, that about like these different twists and these different moments in Ocarina of Time. Like, I will still never forget the horror that I had when getting into Adult Link, leaving the Spirit Temple and just seeing all those re-deads and the fucking screeching, blood-curdling fucking screams that they do. Like, that shit was fucking scary. And it really, really set like I felt some sort of dread in this particular area. I was like, what the fuck happened? Like, there are still moments like that in that game and in that story that surprised me. And they did that well. Ills mentioned about the crafting mechanics, and that helps with the stealth, and that's kind of like what I felt was, I don't know, like this is kind of what I was trying to say. It's like it was they take good ideas from different games that have already done, and they kind of like do their own spin of it on it and try and make it fit the mold of what gameplay that they're trying to do with this sort of thing. But they do it well. It's solid, but they just don't make it unique. It doesn't feel as though it gels well with the story and with the narration. Like it kind of.
I disagree because I feel like the scarcity of materials really adds to the tension, and this is like building tension is like a huge part of this game. Mm-hmm. Like just dealing with those infected people and then fighting through that, all the enemy factions or whatever the fuck. I forget what. So I mean, that's definitely like a part of it.
I felt more compelled to actually watch it than to actually play more of it. Like I didn't when
that's like the main criticism I always used to hear about Last of Us. Is it feels more like a movie than an actual game.
I like after experiencing the story, I haven't really felt the need to actually try and play it and complete it myself. Like I felt like the story was enough for me to just satisfy myself in regards to everything this game had to offer. Like I didn't even feel the need to buy it. Like even after I stopped playing at my friend's house, I didn't feel the need to buy it or like go back and purchasing it and just playing it myself. I just felt like, you know what, it's better off just watching the rest of it. And I had this exact same.
Well, I mean, it's kind of terrible human. It's kind of hard to push aside because, like, why would you want to replay a game that's whole main focus is its story if you've already seen the story?
Yeah,
I mean,
I've been thinking of replaying.
The drive to do that plenty of times, though. But like,
I played Ocarina of Time.
But I think it is worth note. Yeah, and I think it is worth noting that Saf did not feel the need to play that game. You know, like he felt like the gameplay mechanics weren't really enthralling enough to actually want to play through it.
Like I replay.
I think
it's a fair enough criticism.
I've been thinking about it, and I think I want to put it below Ocarina of Time, and it's hard because obviously it's still top 10, it's still super high up, but I think that there is just something I think to like that. Obviously, they're going for different emotions throughout their stories, throughout their gameplay, right? There's desperation versus you know the sense of adventure, but I think that Ocarina, sort of like you said, replayability. Sometimes I'm fine with the game having a one and done thing, but Ocarina of Time has also stuck with me in a way that The Last of Us also did. But I think that I want to revisit and take a different look and a different perspective on Ocarina of Time even now. Like there's multiple times that I've looked at Ocarina of Time and have like I've come away with completely different things that I think the game excels at. Where with The Last of Us, I've replayed it twice. I replayed it the first time, I replayed it again after the remaster, and I was sort of like, oh yes, this is exactly as good as I remember. I think that Ocarina of Time had those weird depths for me to pull from, makes me want to put it above The Last of Us.
God damn it.
Okay.
Do
you guys not remember the water temple? Do you guys not remember the water temple?
The water temple is not fun, but also
water temple. I mean,
that asylum in The Last of Us
is
a nightmare too.
The hate that it gets is like just
overblown.
It's too much. Yeah, it's way overblown.
It's not too much. It's just enough.
But
I think we kind of settled.
Yeah, I think we settled. It's one that I don't feel super great about because they're both.
Yeah.
It's hard because like these are two like phenomenal games. You know, I'm sure, but like you know.
But
something has to come out on top.
Something has to come out on top. So surrounding it, number 6, Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. Number 7, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Number 8, newly on the list, The Last of Us. Number 9, Metal Gear Solid. Number 10, Splatoon 2. There it is.
Done.
That is, now, Wes, since you did not have the chance to offer much there, if you would have the final phrase while I do the plugs. Just want to thank you all for listening, of course. First and foremost, this is the podcast that we do every Monday, but it's not the only thing that we do under the banner of the Jump Up Supercast. We also have the Jump Up Supercast Game Club that will be coming out later this week, talking about Mystical Ninja starring Goemon. I'm excited to talk about that video game with these gentlemen, minus Muzi, of course. And not only that, as mentioned earlier, twitch.tv/jumpupsupercast, where Brandon is streaming some Xenoblade Chronicles, slowly but surely getting his way through that long list of games that he has to play throughout the year of 2019. And also, of course, the place where we sort of it all congregates together, twitter.com/jumpupsupercast, where we post about episodes when they go live, post about when we go live on Twitch. Really, everything can be found there in the one-stop shop. So also rate us 5 stars on iTunes, because we assume you made it all the way here. You must have liked something about it. That all being said, once again, we will see you next time. And now, Noah, your final phrase.
I'm just so happy Nintendo is doing so goddamn well with its sales with the consoles and software. Go Nintendo! Woo!
We're not fans.